He was an icon of revolution, a man who rewrote history with fire and fierce conviction. Though a doctor by profession, the fight for freedom was his true mission. To some, Ernesto Che Guevara was a hero. To others, he was a merciless figure. But beyond the slogans and the myth, Che left behind 5 children who grew up in a world shaped by war, secrets, and love. Hilda Beatriz, known simply as Hildita, was Che's first child, born in 1956 in Mexico City to Hilda Gadea, a Peruvian economist and tireless political soul who shared Che's earliest dreams of revolution. Hildita was just a baby when her parents were thrown into jail during the days of the Granma expedition. Not long after, the revolution swallowed up her father entirely. By 1959, her parents' marriage dissolved. She grew up in Cuba with her mother, quietly building a life in the soft shadows of her father's legend. She worked as a librarian in Havana's cultural institutions, a gentle keeper of stories, far from firing squads and barricades. Rarely did she step into the Cuban spotlight. Her world stayed small, intimate, stitched together by books, memory, and the subtle weight of a last name that could silence rooms. Hildita died of cancer in '95, only 39. Her short life carried the quiet weight of a legacy she never fully claimed, but could never escape. Aleida. Aleida Guevara was born in Havana in 1960, the eldest of Che's 4 children with Aleida March. She often talks about a childhood that was, in many ways, beautifully ordinary. Her father would wake her early so she could volunteer alongside sugarcane workers. From Tanzania and Congo, he mailed her bedtime stories he wrote himself, pages full of love and care despite the dangers and distance. There's a memory she carries like a fragile treasure. When the children were finally allowed to meet with their father, they were told he was merely a friend of their father's. During the visit, little Aleida tripped and hit her head. Che couldn't hold back. He rushed to scoop her up and comfort her, breaking all the careful secrecy. Aleida's mother later wrote how her heart ached at that scene, almost sensing it might be the last time they'd all be together. Aleida also recalls the night she and her sister stayed over at Uncle's house, the uncle being Fidel Castro. After dinner, Fidel read them a letter from their father. In it, Che said that if he died, they shouldn't be sad, because he would die exactly as he wanted. When a Bolivian soldier named Mario Terán executed Che in 1967, Aleida was just 7. She barely remembers her father. It was Fidel who became a sort of adoptive father figure, filling a space that could never fully be filled. Aleida says she never grew up with special privileges. She chose medicine, became a pediatrician, and focused on childhood allergies, partly because nearly everyone in her family suffered from them. Aleida traveled on medical missions to Angola, Ecuador, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. Aleida married Pascual, and they have 2 daughters, Estefania and Celia. Today, Aleida still works at William Solar Pediatric Hospital in Havana, teaches future doctors, and writes. She's authored a book on Chavez and Latin American politics, and travels widely, speaking about healthcare and revolutionary ideals. Politically, Aleida is every bit her father's daughter, a Marxist, a member of the Cuban Communist Party. She led efforts to stop the corporate exploitation of Che's image. "I don't mind people putting my father on t-shirts out of admiration," she says, "but I oppose the mass, profit-driven manipulation of his image." She sees her mission clearly, to keep the revolution alive by how she lives every single day. "We have to prove by our own example that you can build a different kind of society," Aleida says. "People need to be convinced of it. You can't force them." Camilo. Camilo Guevara was born in 1962. Named after Camilo Cienfuegos, his father's comrade, a revolutionary who died tragically in a plane crash, who vanished in a stormy sky, leaving behind only questions and legends. Camilo chose a different kind of fight. He studied labor law, became a lawyer, and spent years quietly running the Che Guevara Studies Center in Havana, a sanctuary of dusty archives, fragile photographs, and the small, intimate relics of a man the world turned into a myth. He kept his private life sealed off from curious eyes. No loud declarations, no hunger for attention, just a steady devotion to protecting his father's legacy from cheap t-shirts and glossy posters. He once said that the true image of Che was found not on merchandise, but in the stubborn dignity of those still struggling for a fairer world. Camilo was a gentle guardian of memory, someone Cuban leaders spoke of with an almost familial fondness. In 2022, during a trip to Venezuela, his heart simply stopped. He was 60. Cuba mourned the son who chose knowledge over parades, reflection over slogans. Celia. Celia Guevara was born in 1963, named after her grandmother, Che's mother, Celia de la Serna, a woman of letters who once dreamed her son would be a poet. Celia became a veterinarian, tending to creatures of the sea at Cuba's National Aquarium. Later, she embraced her father's Argentine roots and took up Argentine citizenship, as if reclaiming a small, personal chapter of a history too often stolen by crowds. She's kept herself far from podiums and cameras, choosing instead a quieter, almost hidden path. No speeches, no manifestos, just a woman living by her own compass, proving that even children of revolutions can seek peace in the ordinary. Ernesto Guevara March was born in 1965, just months before his father left for Bolivia. He never really knew Che. His father was killed when Ernesto was only 2. Growing up, he struggled to understand why. Why would a man choose a cause over his own children? Why trade a life with them for the bullet that found him in a Bolivian jungle? When I was a kid, I reacted like any boy would, Ernesto once said. I asked, why? Why don't I have a father? At the same time, he was this great man who prepared us for the chance he might not come back. He wrote us so many letters that began, "If you're reading this, then I am already gone." Even without him, Che was everywhere. On posters, in murals, in songs that drifted through Havana's streets. Ernesto grew up under the steady gaze of his father's image. He studied in the Soviet Union, earned a law degree. He admits he's no politician. Instead, Ernesto chose a different kind of legacy. He started a motorcycle tour company in Havana called La Poderosa Tours, named after the Norton bike his father rode on that legendary journey across Latin America. Now, the son of Che Guevara leads groups of travelers down Cuba's highways, hosts motorcycle festivals, and shows visitors his island through a throttle and a lens of quiet pride. A life less about banners and battle cries, more about open roads, wind in your face, and keeping a name alive in a way that's entirely his own. Che Guevara's children remember their father with a warmth and tenderness that seem at odds with the bloody battlefields he once walked. Before leaving Cuba, Che wrote a letter to Fidel Castro that read, "I leave nothing to my wife and children, and it does not grieve me. I am glad it is so. I ask for nothing for them, because the state will provide what they need to live and to be educated." Che once said he did not want his children to be special, only worthy members of their community. They chose their own path, far from gunfire and slogans. Subscribe and tell us whose hidden legacy we should uncover next. Thank you for watching.